Good afternoon, everyone. I like the way that sounds. You're echoing. Thank you for being with me. We're going to show you a series of videos in just a moment, video clips, and we're going to lay out what occurred on Saturday night, actually early Sunday morning. But the first thing I would like to say is I can remember growing up when my mother said nothing good happens after midnight. And we would kind of roll our eyes and think, what's she talking about? Well, this afternoon I am going to go over a classic example of why when your mother told you nothing good happens after midnight, you can see that for yourself. This event is very frustrating to me, and the information we give you is really, really fresh, because this investigation started yesterday morning, so we've been in it just over 24 hours. 3 children, 3 teenagers were shot, and 3 children should not have been shot, but they were. And this investigation is still underway. We're in the preliminary phases of this investigation, and make no mistake about it, they made a horrible mistake when they crossed into Polk County, because we are going to do a detailed investigation of every phase of this event and hold everyone accountable that has violated the law. But this culminated at the end of a series of events into an active shooter. And as it's reported to us at this early stage, Osceola County, well, let me back up a step from that. Dr. Phillips had their prom on Saturday night. Jones High School had their prom on Saturday night. Those are both in Orange County. The 3 victims I'm going to talk with you about are from Osceola High School, and they did not have a prom on Saturday night. So when I give you this information, we have a mingling of information that's come to us so far. But with that, let's start so you can understand. The first video we're going to show you was at the Wawa, and we received a call about 2:14 in the morning. And they said there's a mob outside, there's fights, they're stealing drinks, they've got people blocked in, we can't do our normal business. Well, when we arrived 6 minutes later, we didn't find any fights, but we did see a lot of people who were leaving as we were arriving. And the Wawa manager said, hey, I want the parking lot clear. Just let's clear the parking lot, because it is chaos here, and they're just coming in stealing stuff. So let's take a look at that. Do you think that they heard the sirens and so seconds later, the parking lot's virtually empty and everyone's fled. The Wawa manager at that point says, hey, things are under control. We saw no fights. We didn't see any fights on any video. We don't know if there were fights. That's still under investigation. But the 911 call that talked about mobs and fights and stealing drinks and people are blocked in and we can't have our normal business flow of traffic. We saw part of that, but 6 months later, we didn't see any fights. So now the deputies leave. And if you have ever had a chance to do a ride-along on a Saturday night, they go from call to call to call to call to call. So these deputies are now off in another piece of the northeast area in their district answering calls for service. When we start getting calls from the Azur Resort, A-Z-U-R Resort, which is really short-term rentals of loud music and a party. Now I want you to understand the Azur Resorts are circled in red here. The Wawa is in blue. People, when we were arriving and the sirens are going off, people are now getting in their cars and they're taking off and running. But they've all left the area. Apparently, some period of time later, 30, 45 minutes later, they started gathering in the short-term rental area. There was at least one, I don't know if it was Airbnb, I don't know if it was VRBO, but there was at least one rental there that several people came and went from. So that call was called in at about 2:45, 2:55. Of course, now it's in the queue to be answered because we're going call to call to call to call. Then at 3:38, we receive an active shooter. And we'll show you a next clip of what we see. And I'm going to try not to talk while they play it, because when they play it, it feeds back.
This is the
This
This is cell phone video.
cell phone video here, and then the next piece it'll feed back on me. Now, if you look real close, we'll play that one more time. If you look real close this time, on the far corner, you can see the muzzle flash of what appears to be a 223 or AR-15. I'll point out the area of the muzzle flash. It's going to be That was the active shooter that we received at 3:38. When we arrived, what we discovered, and I'll go over here and point it out. I don't know if the microphone will pick up. There was a car here, or some people here, shooting up here. You saw the muzzle flash from the AR shooting back here. So here's where the shooting was between two folks, sets of folks. Our victims were in a car behind and had no part of apparently the disturbance at all. They were just sitting in a car. They were all from Osceola High School. They were there at the party, at the event, but there's different pieces of information we've received. There was an argument, there was hollering back and forth, and then the first shots we heard sounded like they came from a smaller handgun, and then you heard the loud reports, and that came from the 223. When we did our follow-up investigation, there were a total of 36 shell casings. I'm sorry, 33 shell casings and 3 firearms. There were 380, 9mm, and a 223. So there were apparently 3 shooting groups that participated. I want to underscore that the 3 juveniles, the 3 teenagers, the 3 high school kids that were shot had no criminal record, were not troublemakers. They were just where they shouldn't have been after midnight. So obviously, as soon as the shooting started, everybody ran. We sent deputies there. Our first victim I'm going to speak of, she had a gray eyes. Typically, if or if it came, it appears that the shooting at 2:50, at 3:30, kid. Why is it that there's over 100 people opposed video? You have no idea who the out, because guess what? You're shooting shit seriously out there. If secondly, apartment with a remnants where that different apartment. To I just can't get over a shootout in a parking lot full of kids. Okay, questions?
Hi there, thank you for your time. Carolyn Coles with Fox 35. Two questions. One, was the party officially tied to an Airbnb rental or another short-term rental service? And has there been any sort of previous complaints or citations tied to that address where the party was held?
The party apparently moved around. We still have under investigation. Osceola Sheriff's Office shut down an Airbnb party in their county. Is that directly tied to this group? That's still under investigation. We know at the early stage of the investigation, there's at least one short-term rental in this complex. Was that directly tied to the shooting or all of these kids or social media and they all gathered that? That's still under investigation. But what we do know over historically, and I must say that until tonight, most of our short-term rentals have gotten better about doing one-night rentals and renting to young people. And what we explain to them, if you're renting to somebody from this county, from Osceola, from Orlando, and they're young, they're partying. Let them stay home and party. Why don't they stay home and party? Because their parents won't let them stay home and party. So all of that's under investigation. We have been focused. There's a lot of residual events to investigate, but we have been focused on trying to find out who shot these 3 high school kids. And as soon as we get finished with that, then we'll deal with these outlying events that occurred.
Sheriff, did the high school victims live at this complex? Were they visiting somebody?
We don't know why they were there other than for the party. They went to Osceola High School. They did not live there in the complex. All 3 were in the same car, and it appears that the car was the backstop. The shootout happened between this car, and it caught the rounds as it passed by the shooters. We're just fortunate. We're just fortunate. But the people shooting didn't know or they didn't care whenever they fled. And that's why I'm so angry that nobody knows anything, but your friends over here are shot. And nobody knows anything. Well, we're going to figure it out. And we're not going to stop this investigation until we have not only figured out the shooting event, but all of the subsequent events of violation of law around it.
Were the shooters in a car?
The shooters, no, they were not on a car. They were outside standing up, shooting back and forth. As you can see, the shooter with the AR was here. The other a group was down here. And then the cars were here. So it was from here to here. It was a pretty good shot. They weren't close together when they were shooting each other.
You mentioned 3 down, Sheriff. Was there a third shooter or just 2?
We believe there were at least 3 shooters. We see 380 shells, we see 9mm shells, and we see 223 shells. So we believe there were at least 3 shooters.
Do you have any description of the vehicles involved in the shooting that were fleeing?
We don't know that the people that fled in a particular car, or if they fled on foot and got into a car elsewhere. Once again, we're early into the investigation, and we're having to get our investigative leads from the videos because no one saw anything. How healthy is that? How smart is that? You're going to let these people not be held accountable so they can go shoot at someone else? What are you thinking? How out of control is that? They will shoot again, and they may have shot before if nobody's telling on them, if nobody's helping us identify them, if nobody's calling Crime Stoppers and staying anonymous, they don't care about your life. They just shot through a parking lot with 100 kids in it.
Are the victims still in the hospital?
I don't know. The one victim probably is that has the significant eye injury, because there was at least initial conversation that he was going to have to be transferred to a specialty hospital for this surgery. And our prayers are for him that he gets his vision back, because they didn't know. It was a significant eye injury. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned Jones and Dr. Phillips. Do you know if the Osceola High victims were at those proms earlier in the day?
That's part of the investigation that's still ongoing, to see who was friends or relatives with who, and where they met up, and are they connected to the Osceola. Osceola broke up a big party after prom party. And we know that there was at least a gathering in this complex. So once again, we have been focused down on who shot 3 high school kids at an after prom party or gathering. And then we will work our way back from that in the ensuing days and weeks.
Do you know when Osceola High School has their prom?
Osceola's high school prom was in April. It was not, and I underscore not, Saturday night.
What is your message to other teens planning similar gatherings over the next few weeks?
Well, my first message is to the parents. You need to know where your children are, and they need to be home by midnight. They don't need to be carousing around at 2, 2:15, 2:30, 3, 3:30 to be shot at. So my first message is to parents: start being parents. When the prom's over, tell the kids to come home. If they want to have friends over, have them at your house where you can supervise and know where they are. That's how you have safe and healthy children that are alive and don't have bullet holes in them. The second thing to the kids: hey, get with your best buds, whoever you want to party with after the prom, and go to one of their houses with their parents there. Have a good time and be safe. And by the way, for the kids that were at this party or this gathering or this event, call Crime Stoppers if you want to remain anonymous. If you don't want to be known as outing your friends, call Crime Stoppers, but tell us who's shooting before they shoot some of your friends at another event. Any other questions? Thank you all very much for being with me today. Take care.